Yeah, man. Let's kill that bass head. Alright, let's do this.
I'm on the air, we got this pockets flow. It's me and Tony on the mics, we gotta let you know of current events, little gaming, sprinkling some entertainment. We stay humble, but our moms still think we're famous. Turn up the bass and baby, maybe let that magic flow. Our spoken word is all the things you really wanna know. Having a good time on the show, T-Bows and Matty G. Tune in and hit subscribe and join us on the FAPs.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Freaking Awesome Podcast. I am your host, Anthony Bowes, and today we have a wonderful guest. Unfortunately, she could not make it visual, but she is here audio, and that is what's most important. And I'm actually really, really excited. Now, before we get to going, I do want to shout out to our sponsors, the CR Sabers and Blue Bolt Sabers shop. If you haven't had a chance over the holidays to get that perfect lightsaber for all you Star Wars fans out there, make sure that you go and visit CR Sabers and Blue Bolt Sabers shop. We will make sure we throw up a little link along the ticker tape if you want to jump over and check them out. They've got wonderful things, and of course with the new year there's more and more saber supplies for you to check out. But until then, everybody please give a warm welcome to Isibella Karnstein. Now, I want to make sure, Karnstein, is that correct?
You got it perfect.
Wonderful.
Absolutely
I always worry sometimes because is it Steen, is it Stein? Karnstein. So now, Isibella, you wear I want to say a bonnet of many, many, many colors. And I would normally say many hats for gentlemen, but you have not only been like the founder of the Chateau organization for the magazine, also for the Kitty Cat Manor. But then on top of that, you are a podcaster yourself. And I got to say that I'm always really excited to have other podcasters on because, of course, they know the trials and tribulations of a podcaster. But to have someone who talks about many, many different things that are actually completely almost unrelated to your own business and lifestyle.
Yes.
Which is really, really cool. I mean, it just shows how many different facets of your personality there are, and it's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I love to like kind of have a very diverse kind of podcast so that people ask me about like, well, what's it about? And I'm like, everything and nothing. It's like if you want to learn about the Titanic or, deaf doulas, it's like that wide variety of topics. And I think that keeps it kind of fresh and interesting because you never know what kind of guest you're going to get on your show and what they're interested in. So I actually learn a lot through my guests, which is really fun as well.
Yeah, 100%. But it's also really, really difficult with this particular subject matter when you are open to so many things, then to put yourself in a category. And that's one of the things that we had a problem with. I mean, we do keep things light and we are under the comedy end of things, but there's so much more to our show as well as there is yours because like there is no category for life.
Yes.
Right? Like for all walks of life. And that's what is so important, especially in this day and age, because there are so many different types and there are so many different styles of people out there. And you feel like in this generation, if you cannot welcome all walks of life, you really box yourself in. And that's one of the things I didn't like about podcasting categories, because I don't want to be boxed in. And I feel you're the same way.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like you do about it. And honestly, by having that different like range of topics, it just kind of opens it up for the conversation as well for the listeners, because sometimes you'll go in and maybe if it's like in a niche in a box, there are some beautiful podcasts that are dedicated to specific topics. I could get people discussing things like serial killers, and they're really interesting because you can learn about history and they're fun and informative. So you get a lot of education through those. But like, I also really like when you can have all these different topics, you can log on and be like, well, what do I fancy listening about today? Because we kind of change our taste when we wake up in the morning and what we kind of want to go into or learn about.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. It's really funny that you bring up the serial killer thing. That's a very big topic around my household. And I think if you at any given moment walk into the living room, it is playing 24/7 on the television. All these different serial killer TV series and histories behind them. It's my wife is huge into it. My mother-in-law is huge into it. And
did you ever watch the show Dexter?
Loved it. Loved
Yes.
it.
Okay,
I'm very excited for the return of Dexter.
Yes, it's out right now. I will put in a plug for that. It's fantastic. Dexter New Blood. It's
Wonderful.
really well done, and we've been following it. I mean, obviously, we love the original show. My partner and I would watch it and enjoyed that. But we actually just completed our last podcast that was released was about Dexter, kind of
Okay.
going. And we were originally just going to talk about the original series because there's so much to cover and it's so rich and vast. But then we watched the new series, and it's so damn good. And I can say
Oh,
damn on
that's
this podcast.
amazing.
That's exciting. So bloody good.
That's right. Isn't it great just to be free and say whatever you want?
Fantastic. But it's so bloody good that we ended up covering both of them. So if you've not seen it, I highly suggest checking out Dexter New Blood. It's fantastic.
Amazing, good. I like seeing ringing endorsements about that stuff because, I was a little apprehensive. And one thing about shows that get released on streaming services is
Mhm.
I like to let them build up before I actually go watch them because if they are really good, I can't stand
Terrible.
having to wait to the next episode.
In the world, you sit there and you get through the episode, and that's why perhaps you should wait because they're not all done yet.
Yes.
It's close to the end, but it's that sensation. You watch it and you're like, I want to see more, and then you
Yes.
realize it's because this is released on Sundays. Like I have to wait a whole week, kind of like the whole thing of Game of Thrones. You remember that? It was like
Yep.
you had to wait, and it was painful agony. So you might be better off wait so you can binge it and really enjoy it. You know.
That's exactly it. Yeah, it's and really good shows are so binge worthy. I've seen so many recently, and which is really weird because I actually don't get a lot of time for television, and it's always nice that when you do find something that you can kind of keep on going with it. It's great. My only worry is that the longer they go, the more the material gets stretched out because I do find that it's very few and far in between with series can you find new subject matter that continues to keep it flowing really
Alive.
smooth.
And I think that's something that a lot of I know some people they do TV show kind of like script work, you know, and they always tell me the same thing. The longer the show runs, like Walking Dead is a great example of that, and Dexter as well, because they had 7 seasons in the original show. But you get these great ideas, you write them out, you implement them, people love it. The first 4 seasons of Dexter, chef's kiss. They're so good. They're witty, there's satire, and it's beautiful. There's comedy with darkness intermingled, and it's really well done. But then you can tell they start to run out of ideas. And by the time it gets to the 7th, you know, that's why I'm glad they took a break. They took like it's over a 10-year break. And sometimes
Yes.
the TV show needs that to revive it correctly because it has a legacy on it.
That's
And
right.
I think
Yeah.
Dexter is one of the few shows that has survived that and done that. But we were it's funny, my partner and I were literally talking about that very thing last night.
It's funny how that kind of pops up in life, right? You're just talking about one thing and then you realize, hey, there's more other people, like other people in the world that are talking about this exact same thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Do
it's.
do you have a favorite TV show currently that you're watching?
So I can't say that I have a favorite currently. I do keep blasting through things. I got a whole variety of different things. Like I really loved The Mandalorian when it was on. Of course, being
so
a huge
good.
Star Wars nerd.
Me too.
I haven't watched any of the Book of Boba Fett yet, just because I'm waiting for it to build a few episodes.
Me too. I'm doing the same thing. That's so fun. I'm literally doing the same thing. But I did love Mandalorian.
Yes, yeah, it was really, really well done. I think that Jon Favreau has almost single-handedly brought back Star Wars and the love for it because as much as I don't like, I mean, I'll watch any Star Wars just for the fact of being Star Wars, but I couldn't attach to the characters of the new trilogy like I did the old trilogy.
Oh, I understand. I'm not feeling deeply.
Right. And I just felt like it could have been played by anybody. Whereas to this day, if I see Mark Hamill, my brain's just like,
Oh, it's so true. And I don't know if you're a fan of Taika Waititi. I love his work on Mandalorian. And I love the little snippet that, you know, they even included him, you know, as the android in it, like the beauty of that. And I think he's really brought a lot of life to it. Like I first knew about Taika Waititi, obviously it's Flight of the Conchord, but I always think of them with What We Do in the Shadows, which is a vampire. Obviously there was a movie and now they have a TV show on FX, which is fantastic unto itself. But the fact that he went from as this New Zealander into this beautiful role with Star Wars and injected some of that comedy because that's his thing. He is amazing with comedy. And The Mandalorian, not only is it nostalgic for us original fans, you know, the true kind of stuff where we love that feeling that we had as kids when we watched it, just the beauty of it. and he kind of brings back a lot of that feeling, at least in the cinematography and the direction. And I love that about it. I really do.
Exactly. Yeah, it's absolutely amazing, and it's just so brilliantly done. And like I said, I mean, you don't need to have the main characters of Star Wars with the Mandalorian, because it still sounds and just the characters transport just like they did after the original trilogy.
Yes.
And it kind of takes place in that time period just after the Death Star blowing up. So it carries through. I mean, I don't need to see a single lightsaber, and I'm absolutely thrilled by it. You know, now they did at the end of this last season, but yeah. So it is brilliant. So I mean, like I said, if you can create a series in the Star Wars universe and not have a Jedi or a saber, and it still be brilliant, then you're doing it right.
Something right. You're doing
That's
something
right.
That's the plan.
Exactly.
And like, you know, we even talk about just, you know, the prequel stuff, and that, you know, there's a lot of hatred around that, obviously, unto itself. It could be its own podcast topic, believe it or not.
You know, it
watching
really
how it's grown as a franchise. Now they're bringing it back to street and actually listening to fans about what they kind of want to see. I think there's some beauty in that as well.
Yes, 100%. You know, and this is where I think that, you know, fans will always hate regardless if it's not the same. I really try to be open-minded to it, and I appreciate it for the universe as opposed to the individual characters.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
I totally get that as well. I do. Oh, very good. If you ever want to come on my podcast, we'll do an episode on Star Wars. It's exciting. That's what
another episode. You've already done one Star Wars episode. It was already exciting. I already listened to it. It was great.
We could do 100 on. You did? You actually listened to it? Did you enjoy it?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Oh, that makes me very happy. That's very pleasing.
100%. I would sit and talk Star Wars with anybody for hours on end. It's one of those things that, it really gets it hits me in the feels, as they say. So, I don't generally wear my geek on my sleeve that much, but as soon as people talk about Star Wars, I instantly nerd out, and and it's like one of those things that, you know, Star Wars could be playing in the back of a room somewhere, and if I'm walking by, I'm like, oh, and I'll just sit down. If it's the original trilogy, I'll sit down, and it's like nothing is around me anymore, and I'll just zone out for the entire. It doesn't even matter, like, you know how there's some movies that you can't just walk in mid-movie and sit down and enjoy. You're like, no, I got to just watch it later from the beginning.
Yeah.
Star Wars is the one thing that it doesn't matter where I walk in, I'm like, and I'm in.
Yeah, and you're in. And you probably know where you're at when you're in it.
That's
too.
Great.
You're like, and this is just scene, and this is what's going to happen. It's fabulous. Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. I have friends who know that with me. And if it's like one of those, like, they're trying to get me out of a situation, they'll turn on Star Wars or something in the background. I'm like, oh, you son of a bitch, I'm in. That's it. I'm out.
Son of a bitch, I'm in. That's great. Right. And obviously you like your Rick and Morty.
That's right.
Into that. You son of a bitch, I'm in. That was an excellent episode. Have you been watching the newer Rick and Morty stuff?
No, I haven't watched the newest season. Again,
I won't say anything.
Okay, yeah, no spoilers. I am waiting. I'm always excited for the next season that comes out, especially the way they leave it. So
can I just tell you? This is not a spoiler by any stretch of your imagination. I'm going to tell you one thing, so when you watch it, and then the listeners who are listening to your podcast, I totally can understand.
Yep,
just
100%.
Rick and two crows. That's all you got to know.
Rick and two crows. Okay, yeah. You know what? I rolled past a McDonald's the other day, and I saw that they had Szechuan sauce, and all I could think.
Are you serious? Did they really?
Yeah,
I've never
they do.
tried this mythical. Also from England, and we have McDonald's in England as well. Don't get me wrong, but this mythical sauce, I've never tried it. Is it good? Have you tried it?
I haven't tried it. I saw it. I'm like, I'm gonna have to come back and get Szechuan sauce just because Rick said it was so amazing that he would kill for it. Yeah. That he literally destroyed a galaxy for Szechuan sauce.
That's the sauce. Yeah, I know it's. I wonder if it's here in Asheville. I'm really curious to go out and have a look. It's funny, when this podcast is done, I'm going to be like, Michael, get in the car.
That's right. Go to McDonald's, find out if they have Szechuan sauce. That's right. And if you can't find it, let me know. I'll see if I can find some by like container, and I'll send it to you, because if it's good, then it has to happen.
That would be so cool. That would be amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be weird for the mail system if they had to open that at the border and be like, "What the hell's all this Szechuan sauce?"
Like, can I? Okay, so you're Canadian, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, what part of Canada do you reside in currently?
In Ontario.
Ontario. Okay.
Yeah, Kingston, Ontario.
I have a funny Canada story for you. So
go ahead.
yeah, so in England we have this little chocolate kind of thing. It's called a Kinder Egg, and
Yes.
it's like yes, you have them too. You
We
have
do,
them too,
yes.
and it's
Yep.
basically a chocolate egg for those American listeners who won't know as much about this. It's like a chocolate egg, and inside you get it when you're a kid, and there's a little kind of like McDonald's has the toy in the hamburger meal thing, the Happy Meal, right? There's a little plastic capsule, and inside is a toy that you have to like kind of make. And when you're a kid, you have to put it together. It's really exciting. So it's like this very popular thing, very nostalgic. And they didn't have them in America. They're actually banned, which I didn't know about
What?
until I moved. Yeah, they're banned because kids were choking on the little parts, right? Because they're very small. American kids, let me specify that, would choke on. And so Canada still had them. So I went down. I was in Toronto doing some stuff. We were actually just driving around Canada, enjoying it because it's a beautiful country. And I was like, I can get the Kinder eggs, but I didn't have a sense this would be like some big problem. So I bought like 50 Kinder eggs because I was like, I need these for the road, And so I buy this big batch of them, and I've got them kind of hidden in the back. Not that I thought it would be a problem in advance. And there's some in the glove box compartment in the front, And we go through the border, and they stop us, because obviously I've got my British passport, whatever. And my partner at the time, he was American, so he's American passport. And they're like, we're going to have to search your vehicle, ma'am, And I'm like, that's cool, whatever, search your vehicle. So they go in, and we're sitting. It took so long. We were sitting inside at the border at this little, like, kind of like little office there, and we're sitting there. And he comes in, and he's like, ma'am, you're in trouble. I was like, oh, shit. What is it? What am I going to jail for? For fear moment. He's like, we found these in your car. And he's got the big box of Kinder eggs. And I'm like, oh, the chocolate? And he's like, yeah, these are illegal in America. You cannot have them. You have to dispose of them. I'm like, well, I was like, you know what? You guys can have them. Just consider it a present, whatever. He's like, no, we can't eat these. We have to physically watch you dispose of them. I'm like, well, this is weird. And I'm like, okay. And I took them to a bin. And he's like, no. You have to cross the border and dispose of them in Canada. So I had these, like, I kid you not, these guards following me across the little thing to the nearest bin that was in Canada to watch me dump the eggs in the thing. And then I crossed back over, and they were like, you're free to go. And the best part of the story is, as we're leaving, I looked at my partner and I smirked, and I opened up a glove box compartment, and there was two sitting in there. I was like, I got away with it.
Worst search ever.
Exactly. Well, they're taking it back, and they just, So yeah, I was
like the glove compartment where everybody hides things. Like, isn't that the first thing Border Control should look at? Is like, hey, they got a gun in their glove compartment.
Have you ever had one of those glove compartments where it's two layered? So it's a first layer, and then there's a tray, and then there's like a second layer under the tray. I think they were just trying to get it done quickly. So I was just like, looked at him. I was like, look what I have.
So let me ask you, would they have allowed you to eat the chocolate?
I bet they would have. I didn't feel like eating 50 Kinder eggs in one go, but I'm certain if I sat there and was like, I will exercise my rights and eat these, I'm certain they would have let me. But they didn't.
Would they have? Because the problem's really.
Like, you guys have them. I was like, give them to your kids. It's just really good candy. Don't waste this. It's like £100 worth of candy or whatever. Take it, or dollars, whatever,
Because if the problem was with just the pod inside, could you not have just like I'm keeping the chocolate?
Well, the whole thing was illegal. The whole egg at that juncture was illegal. I believe it still actually is as of today.
Do you know why? It's because the chocolate's so damn good. They can't let you in with it because it makes their chocolate look like shit.
It's definitely okay. Well, hear me out. It's definitely about the toy, because if you go to an American supermarket over here, grocery store, they will literally have just recently have Kinder chocolate in the bar, so you can get it in the bar form. They just don't want to give you the toy because hazards.
I feel like now, and don't get me wrong, I love my Americans and I love traveling to America. So please, anybody from Border Control listening, like, I love you guys, but I feel like you're maybe pointing the finger in the wrong direction. Maybe you should be educating your children not to eat toys. I don't know. Like, maybe that's just me.
There's there's some sad story in there, and there's some lesson to be learned in it. About just being like, hey, because when I was a kid, we had them and we were okay with it. And we could assemble it and figure it out, and sometimes it's trial and error. And it's a cool concept for hidden toy.
Yeah. Yeah, I loved it. It was a prize. You know what I actually loved most about the Kinder Egg? I actually liked the little yellow capsule.
Me too.
I was just like, I'm going to make a bat
Yeah.
utility belt out of these things.
Oh my God. Okay. That is hilarious and so cute. I can actually see it in my head, all of the little capsules all the way around. It's
Yeah.
like the superhero belt. Yeah.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
it.
It was just like Adam West. You could put stuff in them, and it was like they were fatter and shorter, but still, you know, the concept was there. So,
I loved that. You know, I was a 90s kid and I loved that stuff.
yeah.
Growing up, it was fantastic.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it wasn't just a treat. It wasn't just a toy, but it also continued going. Like, I thought it was the best product in the world. So nowadays, Kinder Eggs, though, the toys are pretty crap, where they're like these really poorly made
I've heard
puzzle
this.
pieces. Yeah.
I've heard this. I mean, I don't know, haven't been back to England in some time, but I have heard that down the grapevine.
Yeah.
That's the
No,
rumor.
my kids love them, and they get them all the time. And Easter isn't Easter without getting a bunch of Kinder Eggs at some point. So
Oh, yeah.
and they always get me to put together their really crappy toys, and I'm like really disappointed because they're not nearly as cool as when I was younger.
They used to be. Yeah, they
Yeah.
used to have little figurines and stuff in them as well.
Yes.
No
Yeah.
longer.
Yeah. My favorite was this little German turtle. I don't know what it was. It was something about this
I had,
turtle. It was
I had the, there's a whole set of turtles you could get.
yes.
No,
Yeah.
this, like, all the Americans are like, what are these guys talking about? But they had this whole little kit of small turtle figurines, and like one had bongo drums, or someone.
Yeah.
I had all of. I loved those. I thought those.
Weren't they amazing? I remember. I think it was like called Trotsy Turtle was the one
Yeah,
I
I
had.
think
I don't know.
it was some name like that, and you could,
Yeah.
and it was like 10 of them you could collect. It was kind of like gotcha, like in
Yeah.
Japan with the gotcha. You don't know what you're going to get, so I would get them, and I wanted to collect all of them. That was such a
my
sweet
God.
memory. Oh, you give me nostalgia. Back
I
in the
kept
day.
trying. I only ever got one. I could never find the others.
Yeah, I got a bunch of them. I think that was just perseverance.
Oh man, that's amazing. That's a lot of chocolate. So,
I like chocolate.
so then of course it's really funny because here in Canada, English chocolate is a treat. And stores have started carrying a small Euro section or the British invasion section.
You have your
where
ketchup Cadbury's?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
and Twirly Whirlies or
Twirly
Whirlies.
Whirlies, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so okay. Do you have the flakes? Have you ever had a flake?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah,
We
those are
got flakes.
pretty good too.
Yeah. And it goes to show that Cadbury chocolate in the UK is a lot better than Canadian Cadbury chocolate.
Okay, do you want to get a history lesson? Do you want to know why? It's really fascinating.
Yes, I do.
Okay, here we go. This is a really strange story, but it's a true story for those of you listening. So it's the same in America. I came to America and I had Cadbury's chocolate, and I was like, this tastes awful. Like, what is going on? This is not the same product. Like, it's not.
Yep.
I'm imagining it. It's literally a different product under the same label, and it's obviously the same company. So what the hell is this? So I did the research because I was so confused. It was so different. And here's the story. It turns out that in England and in Canada, there are different recipes that Cadbury's uses. And in England, they have one. And in America, they have another. And in Canada, they have one as well. And based on their marketing ideas, you know, the one that is actually used, and I might be wrong, but let me try and quote this correctly. The one that is used in America is a pre-World War II recipe. And it's still the same recipe that they use today, but it tastes different from the British variety, which is a changed up recipe. Over years, they adjusted it as they moved along. So the chocolate you eat in America is going to be complete. I mean, they could be a different product, but under the same label. So I actually took you ever have those Cadbury cream eggs? Speaking of Easter things.
Love them. Yeah.
So I got a British Cadbury's cream egg and an American Cadbury's cream egg, and I did the test, but completely different. It's really fascinating. Yeah.
That's interesting. I'm going to have to try that. I
But then
think
why they
Canada's.
stuck with one recipe over the other, or what they deal with? I imagine Canada's one would be closer to the British one because you guys are part of the Commonwealth, correct?
Yes, it is close. It's not 100% though. There's something about the chocolate. It's even creamier than it is here.
Okay, here's what we have to do, and this has to be a video. This is like YouTube worthy. We have to get the Szechuan sauce from obviously from McDonald's. We have to get Cadbury's cream eggs and some Kinder eggs, and we have to do a video where we're like opening them and doing the taste back and forth to see what the difference is.
Yes.
Trial and error. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
100%. Yeah. You know, one of my favorite British confectionery products is actually a pepperoni stick.
I love them. I haven't had
my
one in
God.
16 years. Somebody
They're
help.
so good.
I
I
used
have
to eat them every day.
I've had people smuggle them across the border for me because they're not allowed in Canada.
So
And
to explain for your listeners, those who don't know what is that? Give it the explanation.
so, oh my God. So the closest thing you could say to in Canada is it's a pepperoni stick. It's like a hot rod, but so much better, not
They have
greasy.
them in America. What are they called? They're like salamis. They
Yeah.
actually have them at like 7-Eleven. They're long sticks of meat.
Yes, like a
And I
Slim
know
Jim.
Somebody.
Like a Slim Jim.
Slim Jim. Thank you.
Yes,
That
that's
is
the
it.
closest. But even then, Slim Jim is garbage compared to this.
They're godly. And now you've got me longing for one.
Oh man, and I love the way that like because they wrap them in this kind of like a foil type package, and then there's like a sleeve over the.
It's so pleasing to open it.
Yes,
It's
yeah.
such a pleasure.
The sleeve
God.
over top of it makes it. I don't know if it keeps it fresh or the meat inside just amazing, but
I don't know what it is either. But I sustained myself on those throughout the equivalent of high school in England. It was good. It was solid.
Yeah.
Back to pot noodle. I don't know if you have pot noodles over there.
Yes,
Good
pot
things.
noodle is amazing. Yeah,
So good.
yeah. Everywhere else has got like Mr. Noodles or ramen, but it's just not the same.
It's kind of like the equivalent for the American listeners listening is that it's like you get an instant ramen, but imagine it's in a container, and you guys have those too. It's just I'm not going to say superior. It's really good.
It's okay. You can say it's superior. It's better.
I did
really is.
the other day. I did buy several packs of pot noodles just for a taste test.
Yeah, just for the fun
That's
of it.
That's a video unto itself. Yeah.
So, and it's really funny actually. Just on the side note of that, because there's Mr. Noodle, which is also quite enjoyable. It's not quite the same.
I've not tried the Mr. Noodle. I have to try that.
So it's good. But what a lot of people don't realize is I think Mr. Noodle is rated as one of the most unhealthy products in the world.
Is it?
It is because I think there's so much sodium and calories in a single pack of of these Mr. Noodles that like there's absolutely nothing good for you in them. And it's unfortunate because they taste so good.
These days, if you're buying something out of 7-Eleven, you know what you're in for. You're taking that gamble, just like with the healthcare system. You know what you're doing when you buy your Mr. Noodle.
Mike, wasn't that your nickname in college? No. No, it wasn't that, but we're getting close. Yeah. So there's tons of different products out there that are absolutely amazing. It's true. In the UK, their products are phenomenal. Their flavor, oh my God, I don't even know how they come up with all these flavors of potato chips there. When I was over...
Can we talk about chips? Crisps, as we call them.
Yes. I have to say for the American and Canadian audience, chips, because if not, crisps really throws people. But
it does. I have a whole list of things that throw people off, and that actually formed a dictionary over the years while I've been here.
Honestly, like that's a show in itself.
Yeah, it could be a show like jam to jelly. But just little things that throw people off, and crisps is the other one, crisp to chips. And of course, chips in England are thick cut French fries is the closest thing I can acknowledge to, and crisps
and they're so good.
American chips. It's a whole thing. And bacon, I don't know if you have Canadian bacon, which I love. FYI, that stuff is amazing. And you have American bacon, which is also godly, the thin rashers. And then in England, bacon is back bacon. So it's almost like a big piece of ham, really. It's like a whole different piece.
Yes. So it's really weird because Egg McMuffins up in here in Canada, they said it's Canadian bacon. It's not. It's closer to back bacon.
I agree.
Like ham.
I would agree with that. Same problem here in America, that it's not Canadian bacon.
That's right. Then we have female bacon, which is Canadian bacon. Mm-hmm. And then there's the other, what to me is I just call bacon. I guess it's more Americanized bacon, but
the rashers we call those in England, thin cut bacon, crispy, delicious godliness. Yeah.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, we actually we ran a camp up. Do you know about Burning Man, the festival?
Yes. Yep.
So we ran a camp out there on like the front line of this festival. It's like 70,000 people. It's called Brule, and what we're famous for is that we have this like 24/7 champagne bar, but we also do like this bacon brunch, and we will. It's really fun. We'll like give bacon to people because of course you're out camping in the desert, which is it's in Nevada. It's pretty extreme temperatures and stuff, but people get up in the morning. You have no idea just to see the the smile on their face. We call it bacon confessional. So you have to confess your sin, and then we give you the bacon as you're lining up, but it's so much fun. But the amount of bacon, just imagine how much for staying, several weeks in the desert, because we get there early to help set up the festival, because it's a big operation. Black Rock City is an intense, beautiful thing, but and we stay weeks after to clean up. But it's like, imagine how much bacon you'd have to bring for a week in the desert, how much champagne you have to transport in 24/7 when you've got 70,000 people at a festival. It is an intense operation, but well worth it. I will add,
it'd almost be worth it for the bacon. I mean, I think to confess my sin, I'd have to be like, I want more bacon. My sin is I'm just going to continuously eat bacon, because I mean, that much bacon, it's got to be a sin, right?
It's a beautiful thing, bacon in the desert.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Bacon in the desert.
I have to go to Burning Man one of these days now.
You should go. Well, it's the pandemic. Did not happen last year, and it's not happening again, and that's acceptable because of what's going on. But when it does come back, you should certainly go.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, now that I know they make bacon breakfast, like bacon and champagne,
we're late. We usually around 7:30 in Esplanade, so right on the front, kind of near the center camp, and you can see the sunrise above the man, because they burn the effigy of the man. It's very wicked. Have you ever seen the horror movie Wicker Man? Beautiful. Yes. Beautiful movie. It actually has some roots in that, in its style, and it is actually of all the festivals, like your Coachella and stuff. And I really do feel like Burning Man is more an arts-based festival, and I've been going for the last 10 years or so. So we've been doing it a while, and it really is just to watch it grow has been such a pleasure to what it is today. Yeah.
Amazing. So speaking of that, okay, so let's talk a little bit more about the chateau.
Yes.
So first of all, I read the title, I thought it was great, and then because you see the videos, you see the pictures, and it's quite a nice place, and then I'm thinking, oh, cat shot, yeah, it's so fun in itself. Yes,
did you get the pun?
I did. I loved it. I was just like, oh, this is amazing.
It's like, I will say, I appreciate the title. So she's not kissing around.
Yeah.
Kidding around. See, it's funny. I caught that.
I was wondering if you catch that. Yeah.
I caught that. It's good.
So, okay, so you're from England, and you came over. So I'm trying to think a little bit of the history that I have read about you, and that you've come over from England. It didn't quite have. England didn't quite do it for you in the lifestyle industry. It was just kind of like, eh.
Yeah, I mean, well, to be fair for England, as I speak for all people in the world, England is, they have a beautiful fetish scene, actually. But, you have like in London, you have these events like Torture Garden is one, Skin 2 is fantastic, but very like latex based, very theatrical, big costume themed events. The problem was not that England didn't have it. They had it. They were good. When I came over to America, independently, I was in Colorado, and at that juncture, it didn't have much going on for it. And Denver is an amazing city, and they have awesome events. But at the time, there was not too much going on in terms of fashion and fetish and combining that. And so I kind of had this desire to be like, this is before the Chateau even, just to run events, because predominantly I'm an event producer. That's what I do. I wanted to have an event where people could dress up and just express themselves and have like a fun environment to be themselves in and experience that while still having like the glamour of like a masquerade fantasy kind of setting. So that was the plan, and that worked out very well unto itself, and we started running those events. They were successful, and it kind of took off unto itself. And at that point, the further idea was that, okay, because obviously you've got Playboy as the historical footnote, the cliff note in this, as it were, and they had their own unique, Hugh Hefner had his own unique vision on that. And I was like, what if there was a magazine that was kind of for women predominantly, where you get these events and stuff, and it's kind of like, you want to be able to express yourself and as an individual. There's this great documentary called The Century of Self. It was produced by the BBC, and it talks about how, in terms of marketing, we decide at some point we actually want to express ourselves for ourselves. That's why platforms like TikTok are so successful, and that's why podcasts have become, because you and I right now, we're expressing ourselves and the individual. And I wanted at the time, because it didn't exist as a platform, like you had like in pet play stuff, you had like pony play is very popular. Like if you ever seen the movie of Cell, has a lot of that stuff in there, and then you had puppy play, which was predominantly like a leather scene out in LA and San Francisco. But there was nothing beyond like Catwoman in Batman, and then in Japan they had Neko stuff. There was nothing really dedicated to the central feline element, and I was like, I want to incorporate that into a magazine predominantly,
Yes.
and give girls space to dress up and express themselves and do photo shoots. So we had the house, obviously, but for me, just like the Playboy Mansion was a place, the Chicago Mansion, the Beverly Hills. For me, it was always predominantly about the magazine itself. So, and that's kind of where I'm at in my evolution right now, is that we are very much focusing on that and the photo shoots and that aspect, especially with pandemic, because all events are shut down anyway. Everything, as an event promoter, I'm sure perhaps you might relate to this or have friends who went through this. Pandemic hit, everybody lost their jobs, including
Yes.
me. I did events. So I was like, well, there goes that out the window. It's like watching a bird fly away. It's like, goodbye, career,
Oh my goodness.
farewell. It was nice to know you. And it was going so well before that. And, pandemic happened. A lot of people were very upset and angry. That is what breeds. You get a plague and you get a lot of sadness in the human condition. So there was that, and just struggling through it this last few years, as I'm sure it's been for you and everyone else listening. It's been quite a struggle, but now we're at a point where, we're kind of revitalizing the magazine and pushing forwards a bit, and hopefully, fingers crossed, doing events again, including New Orleans for this year, because of course, as you know, probably Anne Rice passed not too long ago.
Yes.
Amazing soul. So it would be nice just to be around the city and kind of honor her memory and revitalize that a bit.
100%. Now, give me 10 seconds here. A breaker seems to have gone off here in the studio, so I need to go quickly flick it. But there's a lot of things that you just said here I want to touch base on, so bear with me 10 seconds, okay?
Yeah, I'll go refill my tea while you do that. Good
That's
luck.
perfect timing. Excellent. Okay, we will return. Everybody who's still online, I see there are people watching. Please hang in here, like just 10 seconds. Need to have more studio hands.
Oh yeah, you need to have a whole crew of people just there to run around fixing it.
It's true. Okay, so I want to digress here for a second. So we were talking, we're talking about the fetish industry, but what I love the most that you had said was when you're talking about masquerades, a lot of people overlook this. So people look at the fetish industry from the sexual end of things, but they forget that there's actually so much more to that.
Oh, it's absolutely true. And for me, I mean, my events, they're very diverse in the sense that some are, you have fetish parties, right? And that's one thing unto itself. But then, the masquerades, like that's more of a mainstream community thing where it just gives anybody who wants to come in, especially somewhere like New Orleans, which is such a destination event, it gives them the ability to come in and dress up and really express themselves on a vacation with their partner or loved ones, and I think that is just so good as well.
So there's so much in that because, a lot of people love, myself included, there's kind of like this old school romanticism that is often tied in with masquerading and with, even, and I'll go as far as saying even in cosplay, you look at this other end of things where you've got a lot of people who love dressing up as their favorite character from Star Wars or whatever movie or whatever and there is no difference. So when you look at the people who are just like, again, they're associating a lot of this fetish stuff with the sexual end of things, they're not seeing the this is something that everybody practices almost.
Cosplay. I think some people, fetishize cosplay as a thing unto itself as an entity. And it's like, there's just so much more to it. And I think the key underlying component is it's about expression of self. It's about being like, I'm going to put on this costume, and it's a bit of role play. If you've ever done Dungeons and Dragons, exactly. It's that, and then they have LARPing, which is like the further,
Yes.
which you got the costume involved. But it's about, and I
Yes.
think what's so poignant right now with something like the pandemic is people want escapism. And, you know, it's been so hard for us, but we're like, we need something we can go and still express ourselves in. And that's what's been so great about the online stuff, you know, like you can go and do your conferences online, have a video stuff. So in fact, our last Vampire Ball for Denver was actually virtual. And so it was like I wanted it to be still immersive role play. So it was like you'd go in, there'd be different rooms, and they'd have very old style. Like, any of you ever played like you know, the Zelda games very early on?
Oh yeah.
And they have like the pixelated graphics of the different rooms. You know, we had like a because it was all very angels and devils, right? It was heaven and hell. So people dressed in like costumes with big wings or horns and stuff, and they really got into character. But you'd get little quests. You'd go into like the church, and there'd be a person in a priest outfit, and he'd be like, I'm giving you this quest, you need to go to the bar. And then there was like a separate room that was the bar, and there was a bartender. We actually had a whole setup in a studio where there's a guy behind a bar, and he would give you your next quest. And you'd have to pick up on like pictures behind the walls and use different things, and there were rewards. So you still felt like you couldn't physically be there, because in the past, you know, like with events, even once we'd have thousands of people attending these events. And we knew we couldn't do it, but I still wanted to bring something to the public during the time that was still expressive and interactive, immersive. So the role play thing with the costume competition, all that stuff, it made it more engaging than just sitting on a chat room, typing away and getting bored after 3 seconds, because how many people can dance in their living room alone, you know?
What? Me? Nobody else does it?
Otherwise, it's there's something, you know, the pandemic's been hard, but yeah.
So it's really funny, because that reminds me of an old game called Zork when I was young, and it was all text-based. Zork. Yeah, Zork. And it basically starts off like, you're in a clearing, there's a path to the north, south, east, west of you, and then you're like, okay, go west. And then you're like, oh, you found a house, then you find the house, and it's just basically this adventure that walks you through everything. And that's kind of cool, because I find a lot of the things of the past are starting to resurface, and you know, like I often look at Minecraft as an example, because they're just like, oh, look at this game, it's so fantastic, it's amazing. I'm like, I used to play something like that back in the 80s. I don't know if I can go backwards. You know?
It's so true. It's so true. And like, I think for a lot of the younger generation, you know, and now I will say as a millennial, we are now officially old. It's happened. But,
welcome to our world.
That's how people evolve and move along. That's how it works. But the Minecraft thing is so interesting, because it was like the first generation were like, we don't have to have a game that has a specific strategy or ending. Like a lot of, when you grew up in the 90s, you know, there was a lot of games that were very focused on, this is a path, these are the bosses you have to beat to get to the end level to complete the game. And there's a different, the nice thing about Minecraft, and you're right, there were some earlier renditions of that, but what made it so unique was it was this open simulations world that you could just create anything, so kids could go in. And what I thought was really interesting was I knew a kid, and it's funny, he had appendicitis, and he was in the hospital, and, you know, sick but recovering. And I was like, you know what, kid, you should play this Minecraft game. His mom wasn't too happy about it at the time, but because it got him addicted to it. But it allowed him the escapism while he was in the hospital to be like, I can be in this other world and focus on this. But what I thought was really strange, but I didn't understand as an adult, was sometimes, you know, he had this thing where he'd just play these games for hours, but he would also watch other people on YouTube playing the games. So it wasn't like he was himself just playing Minecraft. It would be like the kids would watch other people playing Minecraft so they could enjoy it vicariously, which is what I think people do with podcasts as well, from the comfort of their own home. So it's like playing without the stress. And that's a very new thing too.
Yep. Exactly. My kids have a tendency to watch YouTube, and they're always watching, you know, just people playing video games and talking about it. And I'm just like,
that's why Twitch became such, I love that platform. That's why it became such a good platform, because you could just watch other people playing games. At first I didn't get it, and I went there, I was like, oh, I completely understand this. It's very relaxing. It's like coloring in a coloring book. It's like without the stress of actually having to do it, you know, still the result.
That's right. Yeah. Now I'm one of those people that are a little more hands-on. I'd rather be playing.
Me too. I'm
And,
the same way. Yeah,
yeah,
I am the same.
I don't know how people, like, when I'm playing and focused on a storyline or something, I don't think I can just talk and randomly babble about things as I'm going. I'm more focused on the game.
It's not as satisfying, right? You want to have that. Like, I remember growing up, it was Final Fantasy and Final Fantasy 7 going for it. I had to watch my brother play it. And I'd always be like, can I have the controller? Can I play the game? Because I wanted to like experience it. So I had that firsthand experience as a kid doing what kids do now, where I'd sit behind my brother because my mum was like, let him have the console, and I'd be like, but I want to play,
Yes,
Yeah.
what a great game first game to like even to really get into. That was like one of the best of the Final Fantasies.
I love Final Fantasy as a genre. I love MMORPGs as well.
Yeah,
I loved Final Fantasy 7. It's so good.
And in that circular way, here come back to people again cosplay about Sephiroth and Cloud and all these other characters, right? And the women's costumes, of course, were fantastic and like absolutely flamboyant in so many different ways, which was fantastic. So like there's just so much creativity to this, and I think that's kind of where in a roundabout way I'm kind of going with the whole fetish thing and these masquerade parties and everything is, in a way, the generations of today are slowly kind of seeing a new age version of what's already been done, right?
Yes.
And you don't I mean, I still kind of look back at like the 40s and 50s, and if you got rid of like war and all the other things going on, it was such a romantic time period of like you don't generally see men wearing hats or trench coats or or wearing suits.
Can we just talk about that for a second? Because I feel like that is such an important point for men. Like, I think we live in a time now where it's like, okay, girls can still kind of like dress up and do their thing. There's a lot of like I think guys historically were like, okay, I'm going to wear my fedora or my pinstripe suit because they had the mobster scene and everything. And if you look at these historical photos, I don't know if you've ever seen the gangster photos. They're actually guys who've been arrested in the 1930s. Yes. They are so fucking dapper. They are dressed so well. And they look so good. I think we need to inject some of that into modern society where guys feel comfortable like expressing themselves again. You know what? You can wear that nice hat. You can actually wear the suit and go out and express yourself as well, because my thing has been predominantly just, focusing on women and being like, okay, here's how you can wear this big ball gown. You can go to the opera. You can have this picnic with champagne. You can do all the things that otherwise, you might not feel comfortable or be able to do. Or, you can go and have this tea party and all this stuff. And it's like, it's a bit of role play. But it turns out, I think as human beings, we're still very childlike. And we need that role play aspect in order to kind of feel comfortable with our lives and express our inner childlike nature, as it were. And that is important. So especially with this stuff going on. So I appreciate that point you made about guys doing. I think if anyone's listening to it, Sky, please buy a hat.
It's true. It's true. My brother has gone back to wearing a hat, and he said that it's amazing how many compliments he gets about it.
It's called peacocking. Go out and wear a hat, and people I've been doing, like, you look fantastic, man. That's really cool. And it's a focal point to ignite conversation and social interaction, which is amazing as well.
Yes, 100%. Mike, pork pies and fedoras. Again. So I feel like there's a couple things about that. I mean, I love the period of like when I put on a suit for a formal event or something. Yeah, I'm like, this feels fantastic. Like it's so nice to dress up to not dress down. It's so nice to actually, like I always say, like, hey, it cleans up pretty good,
That doesn't mean you like have to do it every day, right? But when you do it occasionally, it feels good. Like we'll sometimes go out here in Asheville and there'll be people on the street and I'll wear a long black velvet coat, I have my hair up and everything, and they'll be like, oh my God, you guys, you're the vampires of Asheville, right? And they go the thing, and I'm kind of just like, yes, absolutely. As you go by, and we'll walk out late at night and have our fabulous clothes on because it's the excuse to dress up. And I'll be like, why are you dressed up? Are you going to a wedding? Are you doing spend? I'm like, no, because it's a Tuesday, and why not? That's right. And that's the thing. Like, did you watch the Netflix show Don't Look Up, the movie? Have you seen that yet? If not, you should.
No, I don't think we get that up here yet.
Okay, well, when it gets to Canada, it's called Don't Look Up, and everyone listening to this. It's super popular in America right now. Everyone listening to this podcast is champing at the bit right now saying, oh my God, agreeing before I even said it. It's too bang on the nose. It is a mockumentary style thing on Netflix about kind of the world-ending apocalypse, but semi-based on a true story, which is what makes it so much more poignant. It has Leonardo DiCaprio in it, which he does a very good job in it, but I won't spoil it. But you should definitely watch it because it's very end of times and it's very relevant to kind of what we're going through as a society right now. It's very, very comedic.
Oh, that's dark
comedy. It's idle wit and satire. Very like as we do of Monty Python in England. It's very funny.
Yeah. And that's I really love British humor and that the dark satire of things.
It's very dark actually sometimes. Yeah. It's funny, but it's too real, so it's a bit dark sometimes. In a lovely way.
So I do actually so again we're talking about men's clothing, kind of a dapper dress up. I do enjoy it. I think that it's kind of one of those qualities that are often lost, and it's true. Like, why do you have to wait for a formal function to dress up nowadays or to wear something like that? I mean, because people will look at you and say like, what is going on? What's with this guy like dressed up? And but the people don't often say that to a woman unless you're wearing, again, this lavish ball gown dress, in which case you're like, oh, she's off to a wedding.
I will say 99% of the time, if I go out and I'm dressed even casually well, it's just compliments. People will be like, wow, you're dressed really nicely, and you look good. And even I will say of my partner, Michael, like he'll go out and he has the mustache and he dress up and has the hats and stuff. And people just say, wow, you look fantastic. Sometimes I'll level with you. He gets more compliments than I do when we walk out. He looks very dapper. And people, I think it's a lost art. People appreciate it. And it's like, I have this great story that I think everybody listening should take into account here is that there was this old lady, okay, and she's got this chinaware in her cupboard and it's really beautiful. Like it's like 1800s, like worth hundreds of dollars china, and she takes it out every night to use it. She'll have friends over. She brings out the expensive porcelain chinaware, and her friends are kind of like, she's elderly now. They're like, why are you doing it? This stuff is so fragile. It's worth so much money. It's antique. You don't want to break it. And she's like, well, if I don't use it, what's the point in owning it?
100%.
And that's the thing to take from this. If you have that nice dress, or you have a thing you want to wear and you want to go out, there's nothing stopping you from expressing yourself and doing. It's just a mindset and the public outlook. Like you yourself can do anything you want if you really put your mind to it, is the moral of that story.
Yeah. No, 100%. Okay, so I wanted to quickly again talk about the chateau. So you had also, one of the other things that you had mentioned before I had to run out to flick a breaker, you were talking about, of course, Hugh Hefner in the Playboy Mansion. And, you're saying how with the chateau, where it's people look at that and they're saying, oh, so it's kind of like Hugh Hefner and the Playboy Bunnies, but you're the kittens. But what I love the most is you were talking about how, well, Hugh Hefner had created the Bunnies magazine. It's for men, where you're looking at kind of the opposite end of like, here is a safe place for women to express and be themselves. But this was more to empower women. This wasn't really for that opposite end of the scale.
Exactly. That was always the purpose, and still is to this day. Is that notion of female empowerment is always the underlying current in that, and it's something that, in my person, it's something I will never let go of as a concept, no matter how it grows or changes over the years, is that is the fundamental purpose of it, is about creating that environment. And that doesn't matter whether it's through events or whatnot, or if it's through the online magazine portion, for just allowing girls to be like, okay, go take your photo shoot, wear that nice dress, send it to me, and I will publish it for you. I will make that go up, and you can have it, and you can feel good about what you did there and how you dressed yourself up. Because, a lot of people, it's not actually a nude magazine, whereas like Playboy was predominantly a nude magazine, though, to be fair, weirdly, right before Hugh Hefner died, he was like, it was very controversial. He's like, I'm going to take it back to not being nude because the internet's changed so much. And we have stuff like OnlyFans and Pornhub and everything. It's so accessible now in the world in that kind of environment, but he was like, I need to draw it back so that it's still salacious, which strangely was by being covered up. It's like we change in history. If you actually look at it from a historian perspective, it's fascinating, because what is salacious and scandalous and taboo in the 50s is not necessarily salacious or scandalous today, and things that are salacious now might not have been salacious then. And we grow and we evolve as human beings. So my thing always was, because I wanted it to be a mainstream platform, was that it will never be kind of nude based, it will actually be still glamour based. You've still got lingerie and essential storytelling, a role play aspect of that, like if cosplay, it's still kind of emitting those things. And again, originally, the concept was, well, this will be predominantly a male audience. And the interesting thing is, and this still stands today, is that it has been predominantly female-based audience. So I think for girls, it provides an outlet to dress up, and express themselves through their costuming, and have that be published somewhere and be able to be proud of that and be like, I have this cover over here, I have this photo set, and it's not just photo sets. It's like, well, maybe your strong suit isn't photos. Maybe you're a better writer. Maybe you want to write. So allowing the article aspects, which still gets you the points, is allows that diversity of, you can do this or this and still get the same results.
That's right. And still you have that admiration of being in that industry, and from a strong point of view, versus the other end of it. And again, that empowerment. And when you're talking about, of course, Hugh Hefner kind of dialing things back. I mean, look at, in 40s and 50s, like pinup girls. There was a lot of sensuality. There was a lot of
like that's Betty Page.
Yeah, I mean, you look at this and you're like, this is a very sexy image, and you did not have to reveal all. Like there's something that is still left to the imagination, and I think that is part of what makes things sexy, as opposed to just being all that.
Right. It's sensual. That's the word, it's sensual. And there's great power in that. Look, you could talk to Dita Von Teese all day long about this, and she'll tell you that that's like her MO there, is that her whole career has been beautifully based around sensuality of revealing, and even down to the pasties or whatever it's being there, but like the art of burlesque, which is a beautiful, every time I do an event, I always have burlesque dances, because I feel like it's a revival of something from, the 50s and 60s that was lost. And then Dita Von Teese, she brought it back. And now because of her, she revived it. We have it today. And so I think it's very important to implement that with events and have girls being able to express themselves through performance. And a lot of the kittens, the models, because we have like over 400 models worldwide at this point, not just America, all over the world. And some of them, we're like photos, some like, I'm a writer, and some like, I'm actually a performer. So by being able to give the outlet with a physical events, which aren't chateau events per se. These are like the mainstream events I run, like the Vampire Masquerade stuff we were talking about in New Orleans. By giving them an outlet to be like, here is a place you can showcase your talents. Here's a place you can work on that and have your portfolio and build your career independently, I think is powerful as well, because it's not just always, the writing it or taking the physical photo. There's a physical aspect to it too.
That's right. Yeah. It's amazing. It's there's so many different, and I'm sorry, when you were saying that, all of a sudden my brain went off on another thought, because again, we're talking about even that cosplay industry. There's a group called the Mandalorian Mercs, which is all about the Mandalorian and people who wear Mandalorian armors, and they create their own different
cool.
Are
you serious?
Yes, 100%. Oh, it's a real thing. So you can look up the Mandalorian Mercs. And Mandalorian Mercs, and there's a whole group, and you can be part if you build your armor, and you can tailor it to whatever you want to be your own style from a different galaxy or whatever you want. And they just celebrated a huge event in New Orleans. That was this year, actually. They had just done that. That's really cool. And it was very, very cool. So people from all over the world had shown up, and the group is quite large, and they're coast to coast, all around the world now, I think. And you can go into groups and see how to build, and they're fantastic people. They just tell you, if you want, this is the type of materials you want. If you don't have a 3D printer, that's okay. There's other ways of doing it. And
I love that.
Yeah, so it's super cool. And
this is
again,
the way.
This is the way. Yeah. And so again, to bring things around and summarize that kind of the whole again, the fetish, the cosplays, the being just something different in this day and age with the pandemic. It's true. Like, you need to step out of the box.
Yes.
And start exploring things that will make you happy, exploring your own personalities and your own styles, and really start focusing on yourself and being like
Yes.
who you are. Because if anything has taught us is, if you're out in society and you're always worried about being judged by everybody, the pandemic has now locked you away
It
so
lock
that you
you in.
can be you.
Yeah.
So why stop? When things open up, just be you.
I think that honestly is a takeaway notion of all the things you said tonight. That's the most poignant and powerful point, because I look at it, and for myself, going through that transitional period of just horror and change and so much chaos in the world, and I had to look at it and really cut it down and think, well, what is it that makes me me? What is the fundamental, beyond the celebrity persona that is this person, strip that away, go down to the core. When I'm left alone, in the apartment late at night, what is me and what is it that I actually want to do to have a happy, successful, creative life? And it's an ugly question in some ways, because it's a painful analysis when we go through it, especially with pandemics. It's like, well, you don't have events. What are you? Who are you now? And the answer is that as human beings, I believe, we'll always find a way. And that ultimately
100%.
we strive to be better and do better. So that's I don't know what your New Year's resolution was, and I'll ask you after this, but mine personally was that I will just continue and strive to be me for myself and others around me, and to provide what people, have come to expect of me over years, and to try and be my very best self and to work on that. I think that is powerful as a notion to
Yes.
come to that conclusion. And now, likewise, what was your New Year's resolution?
Oh boy. I hate to say like the typical, like, hey, you got to get in a little bit more shape, eat a little healthier. I feel like that's just like a forever goal. I don't think that's just necessarily a resolution for every new
Not
year.
alone in that. Hundreds of people are screaming as and agreeing.
It's true. But I think the biggest thing I really wanted to focus on, again, I really want to focus on a little bit more with my family. And I really want to
Nice.
focus on getting my kids to understand a little bit more and have a little bit more sympathy for others, to not be so judgmental with people, because it's a huge problem right now in the world, and everybody's so judgmental that I really want my kids to know, like, that's not the way things should be. That's right. Like,
And
you
that's
see it
why
on
you by
TV, you see it
example.
in your schools. Yeah. Don't be that person. Worry about being yourself. Take a moment to step back and be like a little bit more sympathetic for people who might be down and out, and try to find something that makes you you, but can make a difference in the world. So,
Oh yes. That was, to me, that was like a perfection of an answer, because I do think that is the ultimate takeaway. There is, kindness and sympathy to others, especially in difficult time, is a key component, at least in my, world, to kind of surviving and forming a better, like, moral compass during difficult times. And who else can you look to when there's difficult time beyond yourself and your friends and family? And that is the support network, and that's why we have those support networks in place. And that is so vital. And I know you're like a comedy podcast, and I'm like, here is me with my very serious, conversations.
Well, we don't always joke about things, but it's true that, like, there's a lot of serious topics in the world. I mean, we're in the midst of renovating our house, so we were trying to clean out a bunch of rooms, a lot of closets, and I came across like all this winter jackets and all these things that, like, we just don't wear anymore, but they're like practically brand new. So instead of like bagging them all up and giving them off to Goodwill, like my wife and I were saying, let's go out on the streets and let's find people who need these. Yeah, we went out, and
oh my God,
the other day I was walking out of a store, and there was a homeless sitting there, and of course was looking for money and food. And clearly it's cold out because it's Canada and it's winter right now. So
Canada, okay, it gets bloody.
Yeah, and he's wearing a baseball hat, and I could see like he's just cold. So like I pop up the trunk and I'm looking around. I'm like, I'm 10 to 1. I've got something that is brand new in this trunk that has been worn. Sure enough, I found like a brand new toque, and I just gave him like $20. Said, hey, get yourself a warm meal. Here's a toque. really try to stay warm and take care of yourself, and like, I think he was just stunned. Like, he didn't, people throw pocket change, but money, clothing, like, and you realize, like, when he's looking at the toque, he's just like, oh my God, I actually might be warm. I might get through this,
Yeah.
and that was a big thing. So, we're literally, every time we go downtown, we're driving around with like clothing in our car, that if we see someone, that we're like, here, take this. If you can't use it and you know someone who does, please give it to them.
Oh yeah. I had like a thing the other day where, we're in Asheville here, and there's a lot of, like, we got street kids, right? It's like homeless population here, and it has been cold recently. Like, it's been below freezing kind of, degree of coldness, and I would like put out food and stuff. And I have a friend, she's probably actually going to be listening to this podcast, the irony of it, but I put this like a food package together, and she had this moment, so I just left it outside the door. I was like, if you need this, just know that it's like here for you, kind of deal. But it was the apprehension of, is all this for me? Are you sure? Like, and that's the thing I think a lot of people go for, is we're so used to people being cruel that when kindness is presented, it's like, is this real? Should I be wary of this? And I think that's why there is something good. And I'm very glad you told me that story, because like, going out and actually make a difference. Yes, you could give it to Goodwill and easy peasy, just run off of your consciousness. Something else about physically going out and giving back to, because we talk about, especially in that, like, this is good
connectivity.
We go back to the whole like celebrity point. We sometimes think we're like, well, celebrities can't be humans or have human emotion. We put them on a pedestal, and we think everything must be done for like salacious scandal or drama, etc. But then when you actually like, take a moment and you are that person, you're living that life alone, and you're like, what, I'm just going to go out and do this thing, just very Keanu Reeves style. Like, Keanu Reeves is a saint in the world of that.
Love the man. Yeah.
Such a sympathetic, empathetic human being, and just going out and doing.
Canadian. Sorry.
Yeah. Is he Canadian? Is he?
He is Canadian. Yes.
Oh wow. Okay, fan. I didn't actually know that. You've taught. See, I like to learn something new every day. You've taught me that. I was just watching the new Matrix the other day, and Blacksmith. I think he's a very.
He was actually just up here in Toronto pitching it not too long ago. Yeah.
Oh, that's so. He's just such a sympathetic, nice guy, and you'd think being subtlety with the cruelty out there that people display, it would change you, but he hasn't let it change him. So I think he's a good marker point for what to do. And in that moment, when I was going out doing these nice things, I wasn't doing it for anyone else or credit. I was literally doing it, just to kind of reconnect with humanity and a little bit of myself during a difficult time, and to gain some humility there. And there was something beautiful about that, truly.
Yeah. Keanu Reeves is a very interesting person, because here's a man who is very sought after.
Also, can I just say, Keanu Reeves, if you end up listening to this indirect, because I mentioned him a couple of times in my other podcasts, I apologize. That's what I'm saying. No, sorry, Keanu.
No, but it's interesting. I mean, I really look at Keanu Reeves, and I think this is here's a fantastic person. I mean, a lot of people look at him and like the craziness or the silliness of Bill and Ted's when it first came out, and he was such a young actor. But here's the man who's actually gone through a lot of personal grief and a lot of personal strife, and he truly does not let it consume him. Like, he makes a purpose of being a good person. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, he had someone back into his motorcycle not long ago, and the person, they were holding the woman there, and he's just like, you know what, don't worry, I'll deal with it. And he walked up and was just like, hey, accidents happen, don't worry about it.
Oh no, it's so funny, because like it's the irony of the joke why I apologize. This is the third time I've ended up apologizing to Keanu Reeves in a podcast. That's what we were talking about, Dracula in original podcast, and I end up apologizing about that because it's like different actor levels or whatnot. So the joke is, I guarantee someone will send it to him. That's why I'm like, in advance, we love you.
That's true. Don't think for a second, because we're talking about you, that we do not love you. You're an amazing human being.
Have you ever taken the Myers-Briggs personality test or know what that is?
I haven't, no. Okay, I've heard about it, but I haven't taken it.
So before you go on my podcast, that's your one piece of homework from this, is take the test. Let me know what your personality type is, because Keanu Reeves, he's like an ENFP, which is the same personality type that I share. I'm very curious to know what your one is.
Okay. The Myers-Briggs test. I'll look that up.
I'll actually link you when we're done. I'll send it over.
do that. That'll be amazing. So, and I mean, besides, because you have to connect with me, because if I can get this Szechuan sauce, I need to find out how I'm
Yes,
going to
we've got it. We need to do a YouTube video, like an actual
That's right.
video recording, and that and a Kinder eggs. That's a deal.
Right. I mean, I think the video would be like, does it live up truly to what is Rick's standard? You know,
Is there
smartest man of the galaxy is willing to decimate
Well,
a world for
I
Szechuan
have a
sauce.
question for you.
Yep.
So usually on this podcast you have a partner, right?
Yes,
On the podcast, your cohort, your amigo.
Right.
Where
Matty
is
G here.
where is he? Where's the
Matty
amigo?
G is actually, I know. You know what? I haven't talked about it too much on the show. He actually took a little personal time off from the show,
Okay.
but I have been in contact with him over the holidays, and he will be coming back shortly. So of course, because like honestly, I could keep you on the show as long as you had time, but people get a little weary after a certain amount of time of a podcast. So that because there's so much to talk about, I'll have to have you back, and I'll have to make sure that
We should absolutely do that. And likewise, you'll notice on mine, I do about 30 minutes, which is a lot less than usually a podcast is about an hour long. I do it for 30 minutes just because of short attention span theater, where it's like you'll go for a topic, and to keep it fresh and hot, I keep it under that and do it. So when we do ours, we'll hit it out 30 minutes, and it's definitely going to cover Kinder eggs.
Yeah, 100%. You know what? I know 30 minutes is the sweet mark. It is so perfect.
40 minutes is ideal. It's a reality, and an hour is still the most popular format. I like the bite size.
I used to love to try to keep it to 40 minutes. I just find that my guests are so interesting and so easy to talk to.
It depends on the person, doesn't it? Sometimes you get someone that's like, we could talk for 5 hours and just
100%. Right. And
going.
and I feel like there's no shortage of subjects. I mean, clearly you have such an open repertoire of things to talk about, which is amazing. And there's not a lot of people that you often connect with.
It's also about just having the ability just to be able to talk about anything. Like a lot of podcasts are very rigid and structured. So they'll be like in advance, you need to talk about this. Here's point 3, 4, 5. We're at this mark going to discuss this and go onto this slide and do this. And it's like, that's too rigid for me. I love the open conversation where it's just natural. It's not pre-planned. It's not like we even discussed this about. This is the natural expression of it. And that unto itself is really, really good.
And I didn't even get to the 20 questions part of the show with you. So that means you definitely have to come back. Yes,
it's a deal.
Yeah, because we definitely have 20 quick questions, which we call our slightly slower than average rapid fire questions. Cool. These are the best questions because they truly get to know more about you. And so I'm going to have to schedule another show to have you back.
We'll make it happen.
Before you go, though, before we kind of cut this off, are there some social media things that you want to plug to let people find out a little bit more about the magazine, get people more your way?
The dominant one right now with the pandemic and everything going on is, guess what? A podcast. And we have
it's a fantastic podcast.
I'm so glad you listened to some of it. It's under the Hourglass of Isibella. You can find it on Spotify, but beyond that, because it goes through Anchor, you can find it everywhere else on Apple, etc. And it discusses a wide variety of topics. So there'll be, I guarantee, whoever you are listening, there'll be something in there that piques your interest that you're going to want to listen to. So, yeah.
I guarantee.
And of course, thechateau.org is the other one, which is the magazine. And of course, we have our social medias handles as well. So you can find us under Facebook, under the Chateau, shocking complex. But there's a bunch of stuff on there. So that's the main one. Right now, it is the podcast. And obviously, we have our YouTube channel as well, which is under the Little Skylark. But those are the main ones. Amazing. Oh, we have a TikTok. We have a TikTok now, too.
Oh, there you go.
Isibella Karnstein, which, to bring you around to the original part of the conversation, when you asked what's the pronunciation of that, do you know what Karnstein is from?
I don't.
So it's a handle. It's not obviously the legal name there, but I picked it up as an online social media name because I used to watch a lot of Hammer horror movies, which were a very popular series of movies kind of in the 70s in the UK. They did a lot of Dracula-based things, and they did a series of movies, including The Vampire Lovers, which was about a book called Carmilla, which is written by Sheridan Le Fanu, who is an author from the 1700s. He actually wrote one of the first vampire books. And the main star of the vampire book was a woman this is actually before Dracula, and her name was Carmilla Karnstein. So she was part of the Karnstein family. And so she was the original Dracula, was actually a female vampire. So on the female empowerment note, I always really liked that and thought it was a great movie. So if you've not checked out Hammer horror movies, they're very campy 70s movies, but they're very well done. There's a lot of Christopher Lee in them and Peter Cushing, you know, some really good Peter going back into Star Wars right there. It's a trap. For some people, it's a trap.
Oh my God, that may have been the best moment. You just made my day right there.
Okay, very good. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure. I will say that, to chat with you today, for real.
As well for me, yes. Now, for our listeners who are on the road and are listening to this after the live event, of course, we will make sure that we post up a beautiful picture of
there will
Isibella
be
on our
many
guest section. And 100%. And we'll also, if you want to, well, I'll kind of type them up, but I'll get some of your social media links out there, as well as a link to the magazine and to your own podcast. Because I can't tell you enough about your podcast. I was going to say, you know, with the name, you actually have a little bit of pun and leeway to make that an hour show.
Hourglass, and yet it's only 30 minutes long. It's true. And in fact, originally when I did, I had this whole plan that I was going to have it visual, and I actually still have the physical hourglass, and you could see it on the camera running down in the corner. That's great. And they actually do make 30-minute hourglasses, believe it or not. So I might just have to purchase one. And I have a question for you now for my listeners, because I'll post this and they'll be listening. If they want to find you in the world, what's the best way to find you?
I think the easiest way is, of course, to find us through our website, which is www.thefap.ca. A little bit of fun and pun intended in that, but there is links, of course, to Apple Play, Google, and a whole bunch of others, as well as it's a great way to check out our guests and past guests and sponsors and everything. But other than that, we're on every streaming media, so just check out, look up the Freakin' Awesome Podcast, and you'll see, of course, either the Shield or these great little characters. So
I love that. I love the art. I don't know who did that, but kudos to them. It's beautiful.
That was me. Thank you.
You did that art?
Yes, I created that. I was a graphic designer for 12 years.
God. Okay, I'm an artist too. We'll talk about it in the other thing.
Look at that. We have so much stuff to talk about, so it's fantastic. Excellent. Well, again, keep in touch, and we'll make sure to have you back on the show. And again, thank you so much for your time.
Of course. Thank you so much.
Thanks. All right, everyone. Again, stay tuned, and we will be back again next week.